Ivan here with another bit of Total War Warhammer 2 actually gameplay. This time around we are on the Southern Chaos Wastes playing as the High Elves against the forces of the Greenskins. So this is a bit of a fun matchup, and it's a bit of a matchup where High Elves I think have a bit of an edge on the Greenskins. One of the big things the Greenskins rely upon nowadays is of course their Wa. It's an incredibly potent ability. When it goes off, it broids up your entire army across the map wide for, I do believe it's like 30 plus seconds. Let me see, it's 30 seconds. Gives you monstrous boost to melee attack, some boost to speed and charge bonus as well, but that is less significant overall. The High Elves can completely negate it, or at least shut it down, with the help of Arcane Forging. So, oftentimes I just bring a pretty conventional High Elf build with a lot of melee, a lot of infantry, and then just rely on Arcane Forging to level the playing field early on, win the melee fight, and then before my opponent can really get out their Arcane Forging off and do that well that way. But what I want to try out here, rather than relying sort of on Arcane Forging, even though I did bring it, I wanted to try and beat my opponent with a more mobile comp, sort of a hit and run comp that just wouldn't allow the Greenskins to get a good Wa off, or really to tie us down and engage in sort of trap the cat or force me to fight them in a situation where Wa could be activated. So for my lord, I did bring Alariel, who I think is great in this matchup. She of course does have Arcane Unforging, Earthblood, Star of Averlorn, Arcane Conduit, False Protection, Shieldstone of Isha, great physical resist buff, Boon of Isha, which grants magic damage, which is actually nifty against a lot of the Savage Orc units, which you sometimes see, Shield of Safri, and Life Bloom. I myself, for example, am fond of using Savage Orcs in this matchup, so I definitely think that it can be a nifty ability. And of course, Alariel herself is not a terrible melee combatant. Certainly not top tier, but given that she's a caster, she's definitely one of the better ones out there. For my main line, Spearmen. They are simply here to provide me with a bit of a anvil. There isn't much else for them to do. They're here to zone out enemy troops with their silver shields. They're here to, or zone out enemy skirmishers. They're here to basically die slowly, tie down enemy troops. We of course do have the Signs of Mathlon in there, and they're just there to stall and buy me time for the cavalry contingent to do the work. Two Illyrian Reavers, one of which is the Heralds of the Wind, are out on the flanks, ready to sort of poke away. One of the cool things about the Heralds of the Wind is that they do have a much higher charge bonus than normal Illyrian Reavers. That's really the only major difference between Illyrian Reaver archers and normal Illyrian Reavers is charge bonus on the Illyrian Reaver bows. But on the Heralds of the Wind, they are of course faster, and they do have that normal charge bonus, so they're very, very powerful. And they'll crush any Greenskin light cav in a straight up fight. They'll crush any Greenskin light cav that's even the melee ones, much less the shooting. And the shooting they can kind of zone out. And you always want to treat Greenskin shooting with some respect. The worst thing you can ever do is underestimate Greenskin skirmishers and then get torn apart by them. For the rest of the army, two nobles on chariots, which is another thing I wanted to experiment with. You can see how cool these guys look with their halberds. Gives them a bonus for his infantry. They have AP still. They've got 110 armor. They're very mobile, 78 speed. And I figured, they might be able to do some good work against the Greenskins. We're going for hit and run. And one of the problems with Dragon Princes, and I did bring two Fireborn and normal Dragon Princes, is that again, they don't really do well against Black Orcs. Black Orcs have 110 armor on their own. They kind of soak it up and don't really give a darn. But nobles, you can chip away. You can do some work. So regardless, Alariel being pressured very heavily by a plethora of shooting. She's being chased by a very angry Azag who pops Foe Seeker. My opponent here going with a bit of an unconventional build, I think. He does have Azag, who does have Fate of Buna and Spirit Leech, Wa, Foe Seeker. Incidentally enough, he does have the Get On With It, which is, in my opinion, one of the worst abilities in the game. And perhaps if I do a video, I might do a video on the worst abilities in my opinion, or worst abilities and items for lords. That is one of them in my opinion. See Azag here trying to chase Alariel, but the way air combat works, a lot of time you'll get the animation off, and then it doesn't hit because the Lord has moved further away from you as they're fleeing. So a little bit of a mistake or unfortunate thing there. Regardless, for the rest of it, you can see my opponent has a very heavy firing line. Some Black Orcs, Rusty Airs, Savage Orc Air Boys, the two regiment renowned skirmishers, some Orc Big Guns, some Night Goblins on either flank, as well as its nasty Skulkers, of course, for that snare. He also does have a Goblin Big Boss, I think both mounted on spiders, some Wolf Riders on the flanks, and that is it. So, very sort of shooting and melee-centric build. Obviously, that's kind of what you expect. We do hit Azag with an Arcane Unforging, and actually Alariel didn't take any damage in that exchange, which isn't too surprising. Azag doesn't have very good melee. defense, that has kind of mediocre melee attack at 50, and Hilariel has 55 melee defense, so he actually, once his charge bonus wears off, he doesn't have a great chance of hitting her. We're just kind of making ourselves a nuisance here, poking and prodding. We did hit him with an Arcane Forging, so he is not going to have access to Law, and we're in a pretty good spot. As for my opponent, he's kind of sitting, he's kind of taking it. You can see he's pouring fire into the nobles here, but they are just coming in hot, crashing into these Savage Rook Air Boys, and running amok. You can see these guys pretty cool stuff. The nobles just able to run through. They take off 6 models there in just a single pass, and while they do take damage, they'll be able to heal it up pretty easily. You can see another, so 9 and 6, so definitely not a bad showing for just one run. Sure against the squishy infantry, but nonetheless it was pretty cool to see. And you can see they're being chipped away at, but we are sort of sitting tight, hanging high and tight with our spearmen, ready to sort of defend. You can see Hilariel being chipped away, but with her small hitbox, and I'm not too concerned. If Hilariel gets beaten down, she can always heal. It's not the end of the world. In the meantime, the Dragon Prince is sort of posturing around, trying to find an opening. I was thinking about going after those Goblin Wolf Riders, just to get them out of my hair and not be worried about it in the long run. You can't see the Night Goblins there actually getting run over by the 2 nobles, who are just destroying them. They're just running through, completely contemptuous of these poor little gobos, and you can see these guys really not having a good time of it. The nobles actually were able to rake up about 20 kills between them against the goblins. Over here in the meantime, you can see Hilariel is definitely taking some damage, but unfortunately for my opponent, as he does push in with these Night Goblin big bosses, they are going to be forced away by the mere presence of these Dragon Princes. Of course, could make very short work of them. In the meantime, Hilariel getting beaten up, but you can see a bit of a mistake here. I do commit my Legion Reavers. I know that I can win this Goblin fight with the Goblin Wolf Riders, but what I should have done is hit them with the Legion Reaver Archers and flung around, or gone around this way with the Heralds of the Wind, and instead we don't. We pile in like a bunch, like a sort of completely novice player mistake here. And Hilariel, who I was hoping to get a rear charge, actually comes in on one of the models all the way out here, so bit of a waste, bit of a mistake, but what can you do? In the meantime, you can see Legion Reaver Archers taking some damage. But in the front line, the nobles running amok, destroying those goblins with the help of the spears. We're really able to lay the pressure on. And although my opponent is definitely chipping away at the spearmen, that's a bit of a waste of ammo. This is more Gross Ranging Marauders with AP ammo. They need to be shooting Dragon Princes or something like that, not wasting their shots on spearmen. The Warlords boys trying their best, but getting hammered by Dragon Princes, who of course run them over. And they're in a really bad spot. So overall, you can see the nobles running amok. They're sitting on pretty high kill counts. The spearmen collapsing on nasty skulkers. And you know, things are looking decent. You can see actually how much damage has been done to the Black Orcs already. About 1400 HP just between the 2 nobles, which is definitely not bad. And here my opponent did get a lovely Fate of Buna on these Fireborn. But rather than, and this is something, with Hilariel you don't have regrowth, so you can't land a great heal. But rather than sort of charging these guys in, hitting them with a small Earthblood to get a little bit of HP back, I sit them tight. I don't see any hurry. Don't feel pressured. So rather than rushing in, I'm going to hit them with the Star of Avalorn and try to get back as much HP as I can, because it does last for a pretty long time. You can see that we do recover about 1500, maybe more HP, and you can see just how much HP we recovered there before I finally am forced to commit into the fight against these Goblin big bosses. The Reaver Archers still chipping away, doing some great work, and if we look at the line, you can see the Spearmen getting kind of destroyed here. The Orc big guns flanking around. But the line, you know, looking decent. Hilariel's harassing the nobles, running amok, destroying these nasty skulkers. You can see we do get a lovely Earthblood here. This is one of the benefits. By waiting for these Fireborn to get healed up, we were able to have our Earthblood ready to go for the Dragon Princes and the nobles who needed it more, who couldn't afford to wait. And here in the pits, you can see we do get that nice combo off the Heralds of the Wind getting the charge bonus, and then our second unit of Reaver Archers swing around the flank to collapse the goblins. Elsewhere, you can see the spears just buying time, stalling these troops, and even chasing the Rusty Arrows here, seeing the unit spearmen being pretty courageous. And this is really some rough stuff now for the Greenskins, because their Goblin big bosses are getting overwhelmed by the Fireborn, as well as Hilariel, who I threw in, because she's not a bad melee combatant. She can definitely do some work, and you can see the Goblin big boss there having a terrible time of it. My opponent hasn't actually been able to land Azag into a fight, which means Azag is not recharging Wa, which means he's got no access to Wa. The nobles still running amok, and the 2 Goblin big bosses there get routed, and the Fireborn are going to be able to sort of scare him off the field. I actually think the other Goblin big boss might have died, so definitely some brutal stuff. You can see Legion Reavers chipping away, all sorts of fun stuff, and then nobles, it's just ridiculous. These guys are just running amok, they just don't give a darn. They're doing whatever the heck they feel like. Racked up to 73 kills here, 101 on this noble. They're just running around. Now my opponent here getting a little desperate, I suppose. So goes in after the Dragon Prince with Azag. Not a terrible move after all. He does have poison, he does have AP. 50 melee attack against these guys who are lacking their martial mastery, but it's not going to happen. Alariel does dive in, and she's actually going to take Azak down, so you can see there. He's not hearing any voices no more. He's a goner, so some rough stuff. Earthblood healing the Dragon Prince is up, and they're going to be able to just pummel these Warlords boys and really lay the smack down these guys. You can see the Warlords boys getting immediately routed by the charge, especially with Azak gone. They no longer have the leadership to really stick around, and my opponent is running out of ammo. One of the big mistakes in this game that my opponent made, I think, was the use of mangy Marauders against the Spearmen. Keep them off fire at will. In this situation where things are pretty rough for me, like I've only got a few Illyrian Reavers. I've got the Nobles. Now granted, this fight might not be that close, but had this been a tiny bit closer, my opponent does still have two very healthy units of one healthy unit of Black Orcs. He does still have another unit of Black Orcs over there. He does have a very healthy unit of Big Guns there. That sort of situation is Rusty are still at ammo. If they were able to chip away these Fireborn, this game could still swing away towards my opponent's favor. So that's quite a problem right now, because he's relying on Staff Creepers who don't do anything really to Dragon Princes. They've taken off one model in the time I've been ranting here. You see the Dragon Princes just running amok, doing whatever the heck they feel like. While in the meantime, the Nobles, you're just piling through. The Black Orcs, it's 101 kills in this guy. He's taking the Black Orcs to town. They are going to rout here. He's up to he got like 3 kills in just a single pass, and that's on Black Orcs, maybe more. Really, the Nobles here shining in this matchup, and I was shocked. So quickly going over the build, I do think this is a somewhat at least competitive build. You get the Arcane Unforging to shut down enemy wall. Wall, of course, is a problem. If you let it go off, it can result in a bit of total disaster for you as High Elves. So being able to deny that was very nifty. The Nobles doing immense work. My opponent came in with 1,200 troops. They managed to take out over 200 of them. I honestly never used Nobles on Chariots. I don't, but this has given me some insight. I think they're pretty cool. I think that, for example, in the Dawi matchup, where I normally run with a bunch of melee infantry and then try to rely on a few and then just have a handful of, say, bolt throwers, I think these guys might be a decent choice. I could drop, say, a unit of White Lions or 2 units of White Lions, make room for some Nobles, and I think they could do well in that sort of matchup. For the rest of the build, the Spearmen did all they held. There's not much else to ask for them. Same with the Illyrian Reavers. They chipped away, they shot away at my opponent's Light Cav and Black Orcs and stuff like that. Definitely doing some work. And the Fireborn and Dragon Princes, of course, doing an absolutely amazing job. For my opponent's build, I don't actually think it's bad. I'm not the biggest fan of Azak, though. The Fate of Buna here could have potentially been very brutal against the Fireborn had it been followed up with something rather than simply letting me heal back up to full. A bit of an interesting build, definitely a very wide build. The heavy reliance on his own skirmishers was a little surprising. Were I to make recommendations, I don't think personally that the Goblin Big Bosses are particularly worthwhile nowadays. I know they were a popular pick, and they still are a popular pick with some players, because they are cheap and they could use some leadership. But personally, I think they're just not that good. They don't do enough damage really to anything. And if they're not at least in tandem with another unit, another cav unit, like say Orc Big Guns, Orc Boy Big Guns, sorry, then they're really not going to be able to do very much. So definitely something I think worth keeping in mind. This could have easily been an extra unit of Black Orcs that would have done been much more useful for my opponent. So yeah. Either way, I do hope you guys enjoyed the video. I do hope you found it entertaining and fun. If you did, be sure to leave a like and subscribe down below if you have not already. If you have any comments, any criticism, any questions, anything like that, be sure to share them, and I'll do my best to respond as soon as I'm able. As usual, guys, I do appreciate you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Wyvern out.